You know what I've noticed separates a 400,000-mile Subaru from one headed to the scrapyard at 120,000? After 2 decades working exclusively on Subarus, I've seen it comes down to 12 maintenance practices most owners miss. I quote, V worked on immaculate Outbacks that failed before 100,000 miles, and beat-up Foresters still running strong at 350,000. Today, I'm sharing the exact maintenance roadmap I've seen work time and time again to help your Subaru reach legendary mileage. Let's dive in. Number 1. Master the oil change interval for boxer engines. Okay, let's start with something that'll probably ruffle some feathers. Subaru says you can go 6,000 miles between oil changes. From what I've seen working on these engines, that's often cutting it too close if you want to see 300,000 miles. The boxer engine's horizontally opposed design means oil tends to sit in those horizontal cylinders even after you drain the pan. That residual oil gets cooked between changes, and I've found it breaks down faster than it would in a vertical engine. I've torn down enough EJ engines to see a pattern. The ones with sludge buildup at 70,000 to 90,000 miles typically had owners following that 6,000-mile interval. The ones still pristine at 200,000 miles? Usually oil changes every 3,500 to 4,500 miles. Here's what I recommend based on experience. For turbocharged models like the WRX, Forester XT, or Outback XT, I'd change oil every 3,500 miles maximum. Those turbochargers run extremely hot, and in my experience, degraded oil struggles to protect them. For naturally aspirated engines, 4,000 to 5,000 miles works well. Use full synthetic oil always. Most modern Subarus call for 0W20, while older models use 5W30. When you're doing oil changes, the type of driving you do matters significantly. If you make a lot of short trips under 10 miles, especially in cold weather, that's considered severe service. The engine never fully warms up, moisture accumulates in the oil, and contamination builds up faster. I've noticed engines driven this way tend to need more frequent changes, closer to 3,000 miles. And here's something I see people mess up constantly: skipping the oil filter replacement to save $8. That contaminated filter sends dirty oil right back through your engine. A quality oil change costs around $50 if you do it yourself, maybe $80 at a shop. Compare that to a $7,000 engine replacement I've had to quote customers. Number 2. Understand and prevent head gasket failure. If you own a 1996 to 2011 Subaru with the EJ25 engine, listen closely, because this could save you from a breakdown. These engines developed a reputation for head gasket failures between 90,000 and 150,000 miles. From my experience, you can usually catch this early and prevent total engine destruction. Watch for white smoke from the exhaust during cold starts, sweet coolant smell after driving, coolant mysteriously disappearing with no visible leaks, engine overheating particularly during highway driving, bubbles in the coolant overflow reservoir while running, or milky residue on the oil cap. Another sign I've noticed is the heater suddenly blowing cold air at idle but warm air when driving. This often indicates air pockets from head gasket leaks. When I've caught these symptoms early for customers, they've typically faced a $1,500 to $2,500 head gasket replacement. The ones who waited? I've quoted them $5,000 to $8,000 for warped cylinder heads and complete engine rebuilds. The difference between these outcomes is usually just a few months of driving with symptoms. If you own a pre-2012 Outback, Forester, or Impreza, I often suggest considering a preventive head gasket replacement at 100,000 miles. When you do replace them, insist on multi-layer steel gaskets, not the original composite style. Those composite gaskets contributed to the problem initially, and I still see shops using them because they cost less. Number 3. Treat your CVT transmission like it's made of glass. I've seen Subaru CVT transmissions cruising past 300,000 miles, and I've diagnosed failures at 55,000 miles. The difference usually comes down to maintenance frequency. Subaru marketing calls CVT fluid lifetime, but from what I've observed, that typically means the warranty period, not 300,000 miles. CVT fluid degrades, accumulates metal particles, and loses its friction-modifying properties over time. The fluid temperature also plays a huge role. If you tow, drive in mountains, or sit in heavy traffic frequently, your CVT fluid breaks down even faster. Here's what's worked in my experience. Change CVT fluid every 30,000 miles. Use only genuine Subaru CVT fluid, or Idemitsu CVT Type C. Generic CVT fluid tends to cause problems. Perform a drain and fill, not a full flush. A flush can dislodge deposits that then clog valves and passages. A drain and fill replaces about 3.5 quarts out of 11 total, which I've found keeps things healthy without causing issues. Pay attention to how your CVT behaves. If you notice shuddering during acceleration, hesitation when taking off, or unusual whining noises, these are often early warning signs of fluid degradation. Catching these symptoms early and changing the fluid has saved many of my customers from complete transmission replacements. After the service, check the fluid level after driving 100 miles since the fluid expands when hot. This service costs about $140 to $180 at a shop, under $70 if you DIY. A new CVT replacement runs $4,500 to $6,500. Number 4. Replace spark plugs at 60,000 miles, not 100,000. Subaru's official recommendation says 100,000 miles for spark plug replacement. From my experience, cutting that in half tends to work better. Subaru engines, especially turbocharged models, typically run hotter than many competitors. Those spark plugs sit horizontally in the engine, which I've found makes them more prone to carbon buildup and heat damage. I've removed 100,000-mile spark plugs from Subarus that were caked with carbon deposits. Those engines were usually misfiring, consuming excess oil, and getting 4 to 6 miles per gallon less than they should. Fresh plugs typically fixed everything immediately. Watch for random misfires or rough, idle, sluggish acceleration or hesitation. Check engine light showing cylinder misfire codes or noticeably reduced fuel economy. For most Subarus, I recommend NGK or Denso iridium plugs. Copper plugs need replacing every 30,000 miles, while iridium ones last longer and perform better. For turbocharged engines, also inspect the ignition coils when replacing plugs. These often fail around 80,000 to 100,000 miles. And use anti-seize compound on the spark plug threads. Because the plugs sit horizontally, moisture can collect in the cylinder head threads. Without anti-seize, I've had to extract broken, seized spark plugs. A nightmare job costing $400 to $600. Number 5. Maintain an obsessively clean cooling system. Your Subaru's cooling system works harder than most vehicles I've serviced. The boxer engine runs hot, and the horizontal configuration means coolant flows sideways instead of vertically. From what I've seen, this makes air pockets more likely to form and harder to purge. I recommend a complete coolant flush every 30,000 miles or 3 years. Use only Subaru supercoolant or equivalent Pentosan G13 coolant. The wrong coolant chemistry can corrode aluminum components, especially the radiator heater core and engine block. I've seen radiators fail prematurely because someone used the wrong coolant type, thinking all coolants are basically the same. They're not. Check coolant level monthly, particularly before winter. Look for rust contamination or oil in the overflow tank. If you see oil in the coolant, that usually indicates a head gasket issue developing. Pressure test the system annually for hidden leaks. Small leaks often show up during pressure testing that you'd never notice during normal driving. Replace radiator hoses at 100,000 miles and inspect the radiator cap regularly. They tend to wear out and lose pressure holding ability. A faulty radiator cap can cause overheating even when everything else is working perfectly. It's a $15 part that can prevent major damage. The thermostat commonly sticks open or closed around 80,000 to 100,000 miles in my experience. A stuck-open thermostat usually causes slow warm-up times and poor heater performance. A stuck-closed thermostat typically causes overheating in traffic. A thermostat replacement costs $150 to $250, while a warped cylinder head from overheating runs $3,500 minimum. Number 6. Service all-wheel drive components religiously. If you drive an AWD Subaru, you have fluids that need changing, but many owners overlook. The rear differential and transfer case work continuously to distribute power to all 4 wheels. Those gears generate heat and wear, creating metal particles in the fluid. In my experience, leaving contaminated fluid in there eventually causes those gears to fail. I've diagnosed rear differentials that seized completely, causing transmission damage, usually because someone never changed the fluid in 150,000 miles. Here's what's worked for my customers. First change at 30,000 miles to remove break-in metal, then every 50,000 miles for normal driving, or every 30,000 miles if you tow or drive in extreme conditions. Use genuine Subaru gear oil or equivalent 80W90 GL5. The transfer case uses either the same gear oil or ATF, depending on your model. Check your owner's manual. Don't mix up which fluid goes where, as using the wrong fluid can damage seals and cause leaks. One thing I've noticed with Subaru's AWD system: if you have mismatched tire sizes or significantly different tread depths between front and rear axles, it puts extra strain on the center differential and transfer case. Try to keep all 4 tires with similar tread depth, ideally within 2/32 of an inch. This helps the AWD system work as designed and reduces wear. This is a straightforward DIY job if you're comfortable getting under the car. You need a fluid pump, drain pan, and about 90 minutes. Total fluid cost runs $50 to $70. A destroyed rear differential typically costs $2,800 to $4,200. Number 7. Replace timing belts before catastrophe strikes. Not all Subarus have timing belts, but if yours does, this maintenance is critical. Most 4-cylinder Subarus built before 2013 use timing belts, and they're interference engines. If the timing belt breaks while driving, the pistons slam directly into the valves, typically destroying your engine. I've seen this happen at 95,000 miles, 105,000 miles, even 130,000 miles. The owners usually said they were planning to do it next month. They ended up facing $6,000 to $9,000 engine rebuilds or replacements. Replace your timing belt at 100,000 miles or 10 years, whichever comes first. 10 years matters because the rubber compound deteriorates with age, not just use. I've inspected belts with low mileage but 7 or 8 years old that showed visible cracking and wear. When replacing the belt, do the complete job. Replace the water pump simultaneously since they often fail right after belt replacement. Replace all idler pulleys and tensioners, and replace all drive belts. This comprehensive service costs $900 to $1,400 depending on your area. After replacing the timing belt, inspect the cam seals and crankshaft seal. In my experience, these frequently develop leaks around the same mileage. It's better to replace them during the belt job than disassemble everything again 6 months later. Some shops include these seals automatically, but many don't unless you specifically ask. Number 8. Never underestimate air filter importance. This seems basic, but I've seen many owners neglect it. Your Subaru's boxer engine needs good airflow to run efficiently. A clogged air filter starves the engine of oxygen, creating an overly rich fuel mixture, carbon buildup, and diminished performance. I've inspected air filters that looked like they'd survived a dust storm. Those engines were typically getting 5 to 6 miles per gallon less than specification and struggling on inclines. Replace your engine air filter every 15,000 miles or annually. If you frequently drive on dirt roads or in dusty conditions, cut that interval in half. The cabin air filter affects your climate control system. A clogged one makes your AC work harder and can actually reduce airflow from your vents by half. Replace it every 20,000 miles or when you notice musty odors or reduced airflow. I've pulled cabin filters that were completely packed with leaves, pollen, and debris. No wonder the AC wasn't working properly. Both filters are easy DIY jobs. The engine air filter usually takes 5 minutes. Total cost for both filters runs under $35. Some people skip these, thinking they're not important, but clean filters improve performance, fuel economy, and protect expensive components from premature wear. Number 9. Monitor oil consumption like your engine depends on it. Here's something I've noticed about Subaru engines, particularly the FB series from 2011 onward. They can burn oil, sometimes a significant amount. It's not always a defect you can fix, but you need to manage it. I've seen Foresters and Outbacks burning a quart of oil every 800 to 1,000 miles. Run low on oil even once, and you risk bearing failure and engine damage. Check your oil level at every other fuel fill-up. If you're consuming more than 1 quart every 3,000 miles, you likely have an issue. Try switching to slightly thicker oil first. If your manual specifies 0W20, try 5W30 instead. This sometimes reduces consumption. Replace the PCV valve every 60,000 miles. A clogged PCV can dramatically increase oil consumption in my experience. Inspect carefully for external leaks from valve cover gaskets, oil pan gasket, and rear main seal. Sometimes what looks like consumption is actually a slow external leak. Clean the underside of your engine periodically to see if fresh oil is appearing. This makes leaks much easier to spot. Keep a log of your oil consumption. Note the mileage and date every time you add oil. This documentation is valuable if you need to file a warranty claim, and it helps you identify if consumption is getting worse over time. I've had customers whose consumption gradually increased from 1 quart every 3,000 miles to 1 quart every 1,000 miles. That pattern usually indicates developing problems that need attention. If your engine is still under Subaru's extended warranty for oil consumption, some 2011 to 2015 models qualify. Document everything and file a claim. Subaru has replaced complete short blocks under warranty, but you need detailed records proving the consumption pattern. Number 10. Service brakes properly and proactively. Subaru brakes work hard because of the all-wheel drive system. All 4 brakes engage simultaneously on every stop, unlike some two-wheel drive vehicles that rely more on front brakes. I've seen owners make the same mistake. They wait until the brakes are grinding metal on metal before replacing them. By then, they've usually damaged rotors, calipers, and sometimes ABS sensors. I recommend replacing brake pads when they reach 3 mm thickness. Most new pads measure 10 to 12 mm, so you have substantial life remaining at 3 mm. Waiting until they're down to 1 mm is typically when you start destroying other components. Resurface or replace rotors. Every other pad change, since warped rotors cause pulsation and accelerate uneven pad wear. Bleed your brake fluid every 2 years. Old brake fluid absorbs moisture, which lowers the boiling point and can cause brake fade. I've seen this become a real problem for people who drive in mountains or tow trailers. The brakes get hot, the contaminated fluid boils, and suddenly you have no braking power. Fresh fluid prevents this. The brake proportioning valve on certain models can stick. If your rear brakes wear out drastically faster than fronts or vice versa, have the valve inspected. Also pay attention to brake pedal feel. If the pedal feels spongy or goes closer to the floor than usual, you likely have air in the lines or a failing master cylinder. These issues need immediate attention. Number 11. Use Subaru-specific or equivalent quality parts always. This is where I've seen owners try to save money and end up spending more. Subaru engines have unique characteristics, and they typically need specific parts designed for those quirks. I've diagnosed countless problems caused by cheap aftermarket parts. Generic oxygen sensors that throw constant error codes, aftermarket mass airflow sensors causing rough idle and poor fuel economy, or generic coolant that corroded through radiators in under 3 years. For critical components, I recommend OEM or proven quality equivalents. For oil filters, use Subaru OEM Mobile 1 or Fram Ultra. For air filters, Subaru OEM K&N or Wix. For coolant, Subaru Super Coolant or Pentosan G13. For CVT fluid, Subaru Genuine or Idemitsu Type C only. For spark plugs, NGK or Denso to exact Subaru specifications. I've also noticed that battery selection matters more than people think. Subaru's electrical system, especially in newer models with auto start-stop and multiple computer modules, needs a quality battery. Group size and cold cranking amps must match specifications. A weak battery can cause all sorts of electrical gremlins and put extra strain on the alternator. When it comes to brake parts, I typically suggest OM pads and rotors or equivalent quality from brands like Akabono or StopTech. Cheap brake pads create more dust, wear faster, and can damage rotors. For the small cost difference, quality brake parts are worth it every time. Research before buying the cheapest option available. Read detailed reviews specifically from other Subaru owners. Check forums like Nasiosi or SubaruOutback.org for real-world experiences, because saving $18 on a part that causes a $600 problem isn't actually saving anything. Number 12. Drive smart and protect your investment. Your driving habits have significant impact on whether your Subaru reaches 300,000 miles or fails prematurely. From what I've observed, aggressive driving, harsh acceleration, hard braking, and taking corners too fast places unnecessary stress on your engine, transmission, brakes, and suspension. Ease into acceleration smoothly. Brake gradually and progressively. Avoid potholes and curbs when possible. A gentler driving style usually translates into reduced wear on critical components. Use your all-wheel drive system appropriately. While it provides excellent traction in poor conditions, you still need to drive according to road conditions. All-wheel drive helps with traction, but it doesn't substitute for proper winter tires or safe driving techniques. Pay attention to tire maintenance. Check tire pressure monthly. Rotate tires every 6,000 miles, and replace tires when tread depth reaches 4/32 inch. Properly maintained tires improve fuel economy, handling, and safety while reducing strain on drivetrain components. Keep your Subaru clean. Regular washing, especially of the undercarriage, helps prevent rust and corrosion. Wax the paint to protect against UV damage. In my experience, a well-maintained appearance often correlates with mechanical care as well. These 12 strategies are what I've seen separate the high-mileage Subarus that run forever from the ones that end up junked at 150,000 miles. Follow this maintenance roadmap, use quality parts, and your Subaru can easily outlast your car payment by a decade or more. The difference between a Subaru that makes it to 300,000 miles and one that doesn't usually comes down to consistency with these practices. If you found this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more honest Subaru maintenance advice. Drop a comment below and let me know which Subaru you drive and how many miles it has. I love hearing from fellow Subaru owners. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.